Namaste, everyone. Namaste, Professor Bhagwati Prakash Sharma ji.
Yes, namaste.
Thank you very much for joining this session. I think we will just have Shri Hari take up a prayer, and then maybe I can introduce you, and then we can start with the session, if that's okay.
Fine, no problem.
Yeah.
सहनाववतु सहनौ भुनत्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः।
Namaste, everyone. A little introduction to Professor Bhagwati Prakash Sharma ji. He's an expert on global trade scenario at WTO, free trade agreements, economic globalization, patents, investment measures, business environment, socio-cultural values, and trends. He's also a visionary on management and globally renowned expert on global business and economic scenario. He's nationally renowned on intellectual property rights, industry clusters, zero-based budgeting, competition law, and free trade agreements. We are very fortunate, and we feel very privileged to be in your presence, Professor Sharma. And I would request you to kindly take up the session.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. I think it's very enthusing and encouraging to share my views on ancient knowledge system. The ancient Indian wisdom has been ultimate, and it requires no whatever has been encrypted in our ancient scriptures bears utmost knowledge. I'll just be starting with one example. In 2000, cosmologists discovered that in the empty space between the galaxies, that is in the intergalactic spaces, there is a dark energy. And this dark energy is spread across the cosmos. Now, what is the expanse of the cosmos? It is almost 91 billion light years. And there are almost more than 2 trillion galaxies. And intergalactic space is somewhere around 1 lakh to 2 lakh light years. And dark energy is embedded in this entire space found intersect various galaxies. Each galaxy also has somewhere around 400 to 500 billion stars. Say for our Milky Way, it also has more than 400 billion stars. So within the galaxies, that is in the intragalactic space, there is dark matter, and in the intergalactic space, there is dark energy. And the ratio of dark energy and visible matter is 3:1. That is 25% constitutes all the heavenly bodies, including me, you, and everything, whatever is visible is constituted by almost 25% of dark energy, and 3/4 of this dark energy is invisible, and it has been causing expansion of the cosmos. The cosmos is continuously expanding. All these were the revelations made after 2000. For the first time, scientists have indicated in 1998 that there is dark energy. But most of the research has been conducted, its ratio and everything. In our Vedic scriptures, there are many shlokas, including Rigved, Yajurved, Tripadod, Udet, Purukha, which means that the whole of the visible world is constituted from the 1/4 of the Brahma. इस ब्रह्म के एक पाद में यह सारा दृश्य जगत है और इस ब्रह्म के 3 पाद यानी 3/4 अनंत अंतरिक्ष में अदृश्य होकर विलीन है. And there are many such revelations which just give us to believe that our ancient seers have studied the heavenly bodies very well. And not only about the cosmos. Say, for example, Rigved says, Triryat Devah Parimuhurtam Agat. It says sunlight can travel 3 times from sun to earth and earth to sun in 1 muhurt. 1 muhurt means 2 ghatis. 24 minutes constitute 1 ghatika and 2.5 ghatika constitute 1 hour. And Rigved says कि यह जो है एक मुहूर्त में सूर्य से प्रकाश 3 बार आ सकता है और जा सकता है. Sun is around 15 crore kilometers away from us and at a velocity of 3 lakh kilometers per second. Even today we say sunlight takes 8 minutes to reach earth from sun. So it means 1 muhurt means 48 minutes. So in 48 minutes, it can travel 3 times to the earth and it can return back to the sun. So everything is so nicely, whether these are the heavenly bodies, cosmos, or even say, for example, I would come to the true north. About 200 years back, nobody on this planet knew anything about the true north. Only magnetic north was being used. And the magnetic north, that is the north indicated by the magnetic needle, and the true north may vary at the most by 20 degrees. On some day it may vary by 10 degrees, on some day it may vary by 5 degrees, on some day it may coincide with the true north, and someday there may be a gap of this. And therefore navigators experience a lot of trouble till the scientists found out that true north is different than magnetic north. Now what is the true north? If we extend the axis of rotation of the earth, it reaches the polar star ध्रुव तारे पर. हमारा अर्थ पृथ्वी की जो घूमने की धुरी है उसको अगर हम आसमान में ऊपर बढ़ाएं तो वो ध्रुव तारे पे जाती है. And this axis of rotation has a spin. यह भी घूमता है एक्सिस. And it takes 25,800 years to complete 1 rotation. So after 12,000 years, that is somewhere around in 17,000 AD, the axis of rotation would reach to Vega. अभिजित तारे की तरफ जाएगा, अभी वो ध्रुव तारे पर जाता है. And our ancient rishis had the full knowledge that this rotation takes 25,800 years. And they have called it as Ayan Chalan. 100 years back, nobody knew anything about the precision of equinoxes. ये जो अयन चलन को इंग्लिश में कहते हैं precision of equinoxes. और किसी ने भी अयन चलन के बारे में नहीं जाना. Few years back, Makar Sankranti used to fall on 22nd December. Then it started falling on 23rd December, 24, 25. Then in the year of the birth of Vivekanand, it was on 12th January. So on 12th January was the Makar Sankranti day. And after a few years, it would fall upon 15th of January. In every 71 to 80 years, it precedes, it moves back by 1 day. So मकर संक्रांति का दिन 70-80 साल में एक दिन पीछे सरकता जाता है. तो 22 दिसंबर से यह हमारा 14 जनवरी तक मकर संक्रांति आगे बढ़ते हुए आ गया. And That is why we used to calculate Nerian planetary movements. Sion means with the equinoxes, and Nerian means deducting this movement of precision of equinoxes. And earlier, the names of our months were not Chaitra, Vaishak, Jyesht, Ashar. They were Madhu, Madhav, Shuchi, Nabhasya, etc. So in Vedic scriptures, you would find the names of months as Madhu, Madhav, etc. Even in Ramcharitmanas, Tulsidas ji has used the term for describing the Ram Navami, Navami Tithi Madhumas Punita. Chaitra means Madhu. Madhu, Madhav, Shuchi, इस तरह से महीनों के नाम थे. Now, due to this precision of equinoxes, a few years before the Mahabharata, that is somewhere around 7,000 years back, the Purnimas, full moon, began to fall on certain nakshatras, constellations. जिस महीने में पूर्णिमा चित्रा नक्षत्र में आती है वह चैत्र कहलाता है. जिस महीने की पूर्णिमा विशाखा नक्षत्र में आने लगी उसको हमने वैशाख कहा. जिस महीने की पूर्णिमा ज्येष्ठा में आने लगी ज्येष्ठ कहा. जिस महीने की पूर्णिमा पूर्वाषाढ़ नक्षत्र में आने लगी हमने उसको आषाढ़ मास कहा. जिस महीने की पूर्णिमा श्रावण मास में. So all the 12 months have the nomenclature based that on which constellation the full moon falls. पूर्णिमा किस नक्षत्र में आती है इसके आधार पर. This procedure has begun only few years before Mahabharata, and therefore earlier the nomenclature of months in the Vedic scriptures was also Madhu, Madhav, Shuchi. It was what cosmic changes have been taking place. Our ancient forefathers kept perfect record of that. And when the full moon began to fall on particular constellations of Chitra, Vishaka, Jyeshtha, etc., we changed the nomenclature. It means we are such an advanced society that right from the cosmic movements, we had kept everything. Now, not only in cosmic sciences, say for example, when we say that velocity of light was calculated by Reamer in 17th century. But before that, Sayanacharya has given a shlok referring to Adi Shankaracharya. Sayanacharya was in 14th century. Sayanacharya की एक बात शायद किसी को पता नहीं होगी. सायणाचार्य ने वेदों के भाष्य लिखे और सायणाचार्य विजयनगर साम्राज्य के प्रधान सेनापति और वहां के महामात्य भी थे, प्राइम मिनिस्टर भी थे. जिस समय Arab invaders were invading, and Vijayanagar Samrajya had fast battle with foreign aggressors of Turkey and Arabs. At that time, on the one hand, Sayan written the commentary of the Vedic scriptures, और 14th century की सबसे पुरानी कमेंट्री वैदिक स्क्रिप्चर्स की वही अवेलेबल है. उसके बाद 16th century की महीधर की है, उसके बाद दयानंद जी की और उसके बाद सातवलेकर जी की. तो यह जो उस समय सायणाचार्य ने कहा योजना नाम सहस्त्रे द्विद्वि शते द्विच योजने एकेन निमिषार्धेन क्रममान नमोस्तुते, which travels 2202 योजन. योजनाम सहस्त्रे द्विद्वि शते द्विच योजने, in half of a nimesh. One nimesh constitutes 0.216 seconds. Half nimesh means 0.108 seconds, roughly around 1/10 of a second. So if we calculate it, we find the velocity of light as 1,86,300 miles per second, or a little more than 3 lakh kilometers per second, whatever is the present day estimate of velocity of light. He has referred it to Adi Shankaracharya, who has mentioned it in 8th century, and Adi Shankaracharya has took it from Rigveda. So we knew what was the velocity of light. Now I come to a little bit to life sciences. In life sciences, it was for the first time in 1628 that William Harvey revealed that the function of the heart is to circulate blood in the body. इसका हृदय का काम शरीर में रक्त का परिसंचार करना है. any other function of the heart was not known to the society till 20th century. Now, if we refer to Charak Samhita, Bhel Samhita, and Shatpat Brahman, Shatpat Brahman is a 5,000 years old scripture. Why do we say 5,000 years? Because the precision of equinoxes takes place, जिसको हम बसंत संपात कहते हैं, in the कृतिका constellation, कृतिका नक्षत्र में. अभी वो पूर्व भाद्रपद में आता है, तो ये 5,000 साल पहले का वो स्क्रिप्चर है शतपथ ब्राह्मण. It mentioned, actually in Sanskrit scriptures, every word has a deep connotation based on the composition of its letters, जिसको हम निर्वचन कहते हैं, शब्दों का निर्वचन कहते हैं, निरूक्त कहते हैं. It says हरते ददाते रयते यमम हृदय शब्दः. हरते means takes blood from the body. एक मैं पूछ लेता हूँ, ऑडियंस would be more comfortable in Hindi or in English, or I should be bilingual? Just can you let me know? Can anybody let me know? Because if in about Indian scriptures, I'll keep on speaking in English.
Sir, I think we are getting responses that bilingual is great, sir.
Okay, fine.
Yes, thank you.
So it says Harte Dadat, Hriday has 4 letters, Ha, Ra, Da, Ya. So all these Ha, Ra, Da, Ya have been very intelligently combined. Harte stands for takes blood from the body. Harte yani leta hai. Dadate yani gives blood to the body. Rayate means it circulates blood in the body. Yamam means it regulates the heartbeats. 70 years back, 75 years back, nobody knew that heartbeat is regulated by the heart itself. There is a natural pacemaker, and the electrical impulses of that natural pacemaker generate 72 heartbeats per minute. So normally the modern biologists believed that brain must be regulating the heartbeats. It was only about 75 years back or 80 or 90 years back that scientists could find out that heartbeats are regulated by the natural pacemaker by virtue of the electrical impulses being generated by that natural pacemaker. And nowadays, whenever anybody's that natural pacemakers recedes, properly work नहीं करता है, तो artificial pacemaker लगाया जाता है. Artificial pacemaker is a silver ion battery. हमारी जो मोबाइल में लिथियम आयन बैटरी है, इसमें सिल्वर आयन बैटरी होती है आर्टिफिशियल पेसमेकर में. And an electrode is taken out from that silver ion battery, inserted in the pericardium of the heart, and electrical impulses are supplemented in the ventricle. हृदय के निलय में किसी की प्रॉब्लम सीवियर होती है, तो they use double lead to give electrical impulses to both the ventricles. और किसी की सीवियर प्रॉब्लम होती है, तो they use ट्रिपल लीड पेसमेकर, एक इलेक्ट्रोड उसमें एट्रियम आलिंद में भी इलेक्ट्रिकल इंपल्सेस यानी कि बिजली की सप्लाई दी जाती है. देयर इज ए श्लोक इन यजुर्वेद, अग्नि घुंग हृदय नाशनी घुंग हृदयन अग्नि घुंग हृदय नाशनी घुंग हृदयाग्रण पशुपति प्रसन्न. लंबा श्लोक है. अग्नि घुंग हृदय नाशनी घुंग. अशनि मीन्स विद्युत. If you will see the Vedic thesaurus, which is called Nighantu. Nighantus are Vedic thesaurus which have synonyms for all the Vedic words. So you will find that in 4,000, 5,000 years back also, Yask and they have used this. So विद्युत का एक अर्थ होता है अशनि. अग्नि घुंग हृदय नाशनि, हृदय के अग्रभाग में विद्युत को धारण करूं. It means it was known to that rishi who has compiled that shlok of Yajurved, and he has said हृदय के अग्रभाग में विद्युत को धारण करूं. Then there are terms. कोशाभ्याम means two हृदय के दो प्रकोष्ठ. मत्स्यनाभ्याम all the parts of the heart. तो double lead, triple lead, or the silver ion battery is installed subcutaneously just above the ribs. तो वहां अंतर प्रश्रवण शब्द भी है पसलियों के ऊपर। मैं अभी चूंकि टाइम लिमिटेड है, मैं उसके पूरी उसमें नहीं जा रहा हूं, बट आवर ऋषिज न्यू दैट minute electrical impulses have a role in regulating the heartbeat, and that is why Bhel Samhita is contemporary with the Charak Samhita people everyone knows. Bhel Samhita शायद बहुत कम लोगों ने नाम सुना होगा। Bhel Samhita clearly says हृदय की धड़कनों का नियमन हृदय स्वयं करता है। Now चरक आदि और यहाँ तक कि वेदों में भी कहा है चित्त का स्थान हृदय है और सारी चित्त वृत्तियों का उद्गम हृदय है। और चित्त वृत्तियों का मतलब the tendency to steal, tendency to molest women, tendency to terrorize people, तो ये जितनी चित्त की वृत्तियां हैं, चोरी, दुराचार, ठगी, लूटपाट, ये सारी सैडिस्टिक ये वृत्तियां और सद्वृत्तियां, सच बोलना, ये सारी they are regulated by heart, और ये चित्त वृत्तियां, and that is why in Yajurved and other Vedas it has been said मनः शिव संकल्पमस्तु, मेरा मन यानी मेरा हृदय शिव संकल्प वाला, सत संकल्प वाला बने। इस प्रकार के बहुत सारे वो है। Now 75 years back no biologist had any idea of cardiac memory, लेकिन अगर आप अब सर्च करेंगे नेट पे, you will find people have two kinds of memory. One is cortical memory, which is that is the memory of the brain, and cardiac memory means memory of the heart. And heart also has thought process. Now these days a lot of heart transplantations are taking place, and from that clues could be taken that heart also has a thought process, and all these instincts of a person are regulated by heart. A lady who never thought of drinking beer or any liquor, but a person who died in an accidental death and his heart was transplanted into that lady. She was a heart patient, and before that heart was biologically dead in case of accident of that person, that heart was transplanted into a lady. She never thought of consuming any liquor. But after this heart transplantation, she developed the habit of consuming beer. जिसने बियर जीवन में कभी पीने का सोचा नहीं, चूंकि बियर के शौकीन व्यक्ति का हृदय का प्रत्यारोपण हुआ, तो इसलिए उसको इसकी एक आदत लग गई. There was another foundry worker who never touched any piano, but an African girl, she was a pianist. She used to play piano. And when after her death, her heart was transplanted into that foundry worker, he developed inclination towards playing piano. In another third case, a girl was murdered, and before her heart was biologically dead, her heart was transplanted into another girl having some cardiac problem. So after this heart transplantation, she started having apprehension that she is likely to be murdered because the donor of the heart was murdered. Bruce Lipton, biologist, has produced many such YouTube presentations, how it happens. You can visit his this YouTube channel. Bruce Lipton has very well described all this. So, but then when the parents of that girl consulted the psychiatrist said that since the donor was murdered and therefore you also consult the police, and that recipient of the heart has helped the police to nab that murderer, and the उसने कैसे कपड़े पहन रखे थे, कैसा चेहरा था, सब कुछ उसने पुलिस को डिस्क्राइब कर दिया, और अल्टीमेटली पुलिस nabbed that person. And therefore मुझे ये लगता है कि हमारे प्राचीन शास्त्रों में जितनी बातें कही गई है उनको अब तक, चूंकि there were no scientific revelations, or in 1200 years of aggression of Arabs and other foreign invaders, what has happened? All our scriptures were burnt. Ali Bakhtiar-Din Khilji has burnt Nalanda, and all these libraries were burnt. For several years, अरब्स के हरम में और मुगल के हरम में हमारे ग्रंथों के कागजों को जला के पानी नहाने के लिए पानी गर्म किया जाता रहा है. यानी कि so much large stock or inventory of scriptures were burned, and in these 1200 years we could not teach our Vedic scriptures and other scriptures very well. हम सब जानते हैं औरंगजेब के टाइम में, और all the gurukuls were destroyed, and that is why. So actually, and then in last 200-300 years, all these scientific revelations are being made. But at least now we can corroborate that these were well codified, they were properly protected there, and they had all this description. So now the need is the first thing in understanding the Indian knowledge system is to interpret the terms, ancient terms in these scriptures. जैसे अशनि is for विद्युत, और जब हम आज से 100 साल पहले कोई कहता है हृदय के अग्रभाग में विद्युत धारण करूं, तो लोग उसका मजाक बनाते हैं कि ये पंडित का दिमाग फिर गया था, बिजली तो आसमान में चमकती है, हृदय में कौन सी विद्युत. बट नाउ जब प्रिसाइजली इट इज ऑल बीइंग डन, we can interpret that how wisely that has been incorporated there. So what I was saying, that every word has been made in such a way by combining specific letters. जैसे हम कहते हैं मंत्र, तो मननात् त्रायते इति मंत्रः, मनन करने वाले की रक्षा करे वह मंत्र है. हम कहते हैं शंकर, शम तनोतु इति शंकरः, संकटों से रक्षा करे वह शंकर है. Likewise, only recently 2 days back, this United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change has been concluded, a 2-week meeting of almost around 197 countries. Scientists from all countries have also assembled there. So, in 2012, in a similar conference in Rio 12, scientists of almost 105 countries have opined that the rains on this earth are caused by 2 variables. One is the oceans, which contribute about 60% of rain precipitating humidity. And second role is of forest. Forests on the earth contribute 40% of the rain precipitating humidity. तो वर्षा करने के लिए जो आर्द्रता चाहिए उसमें से 40% ह्यूमिडिटी वन कंट्रीब्यूट करते हैं. एंड दैट इज व्हाई इन द निरुक्त, यास्क एंड अदर्स हैव डिस्कस्ड द इवोल्यूशन ऑफ द वर्ड वन. वन्यते याचते वृष्टि प्रदायते इति वनाः, which demands rain from the environment is forest. प्रकृति में वृष्टि की मांग करने वाले, वर्षा की मांग करने वाले को वन कहते हैं. और आज का वैज्ञानिक कहता है कि जो रेन प्रेसिपिटेटिंग ह्यूमिडिटी है उसमें 40% कंट्रीब्यूशन, सेकंड लार्जेस्ट कंट्रीब्यूशन इज ऑफ फॉरेस्ट. अब और मैं इससे भी आगे आता हूं, इससे मैं थोड़ा इकोनॉमिक्स पे भी आ जाऊंगा. इंडिया हैज अर्न मोस्ट ऑफ इट्स वेल्थ बाय एक्सपोर्ट ऑफ जिंक. Nobody in the world knew how to manufacture zinc, because zinc ore, when it is heated at 820 degrees centigrade, zinc melts, and 910 degrees is the melting point of the zinc, and zinc gets oxidized. So you cannot get zinc before 820 degrees centigrade, and at 910 degrees centigrade it will oxidize after boiling. So मेटल फॉर्म में कोई नहीं लेना जानता था. Our ancient artisans and rishis, they knew, and they used a copper plate in the retort. So zinc ore was heated from down below, and a copper plate was used to cover it, and pure zinc metal was collected on copper. And that is why zinc is called yashad in Sanskrit. ताम्रः यश प्रदायते इति यशदः, which gives credit to the copper is zinc. And the whole of the metallurgical chemistry is combined in these three letter term yashad. Tamrah yash pradayate iti yashadah. So actually, one thing, if we have to understand and interpret the Indian knowledge system, हमको निरुक्त का अध्ययन करना होगा जिसमें शब्दों का निर्वचन दिया गया है. word epidemiology is very important to interpret the Indian knowledge system. जैसे अब मैं थोड़ा सा दो बातें आ जाता हूं. एक तो probably some of you must have read about Angus Maddison. Angus Maddison, a British economic historian, was asked by the OECD nations. OECD nations is the group of advanced industrialized countries, America, Europe, Western Europe के देश, जापान, कोरिया, इनका एक संगठन बना हुआ, Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development Countries. They have their headquarters in Brussels in Belgium. They asked Angus Maddison in 2000 that, Angus, can you author history of the economic history of the world of last 2000 years? He said, yes, I can do it, but I need so many experts. She demanded 30 economists, 20 anthropologists, 30 archaeologists. In this way is demanded almost 130 world-class scholars, professors of their disciplines, economics, anthropology, archaeology, and various other metallurgy, many subjects. And he was given a chartered aircraft. And he traveled across the world. And he authored the World Economic History, A Millennium Perspective, which was published from Belgium, from Brussels, where the OECD headquarters is there. That was not published in India. And that is available on the net. He has said from 0 AD up to 1500 AD, India's contribution in world's manufacturing was 34%. China, US, Russia, no country was anywhere near us. Today we have only 3% contribution in world manufacturing. China has 28.4%. US has 17.5%. Japan has 10% share in world manufacturing. Germany has 6%. In all these four countries, China, US, Japan, and Germany, they have 60% share in world manufacturing out of a polity of 200 nations. At that time, India had 34% share in world manufacturing. This has been authored by Angus Maddison, British economic historian, with the help of world-class scholars of different countries, in all numbering 130. Now, I think many times we just say कि ये जो आधुनिक कंपनियां और पार्टनरशिप्स और मॉडर्न बिजनेस और मॉडर्न मैन्युफैक्चरिंग एंड ऑल दीज आर मॉडर्न फिनोमेना. एंशिएंट पीपल वर hunterers. This is wrong. In Rigved and Yajurved, there are several such shlokas which reveal that we had multi-locational business enterprises in the Vedic age. Just we have to rightly interpret the words. यजुर्वेद का ही एक मंत्र है, इमाम अग्निष्ट का धेनुः संत्रेका च दशंच दशंच शतंच शतंच सहस्रंच सहस्रंच, लंबा है, 17 मुंशमिन लोके लास्ट में है, और इट टॉक्स ऑफ फिगर्स अप टू ट्रिलियंस एंड क्विंटिलियंस. यानी कि हमको जीरो का पता ऋग्वेद के काल में, यजुर्वेद के काल में था. दैट इज वाई हमने कहा 10, 100, 1000, 10,000, लाख, 10 लाख, करोड़, अरब, खरब, शंख, नील, ये सारे फिगर्स हमने उस समय वैदिक स्क्रिप्चर्स में इमाम अग्निष्ट का. नाउ द मीनिंग इज, मैंने अपना इष्ट साधन करने वाली पूंजी अनेक स्थानों पर इन्वेस्ट कर रखी है. वह एक दुधारू गौ की तरह मुझे निरंतर लाभ दे, और वे लाभ मेरे 10 गुने, 100 गुने, 1000 गुने, लाख गुने, करोड़ गुने, अरब गुने, खरब गुने. He has imagined. Now here this word dhenu is not for cow. It is for profit bearing capital. Now why some people who are well versed with the portfolio analysis, management में portfolio analysis कहते हैं, अगर किसी ग्रुप में, जैसे टाटा ग्रुप में there are 50 companies. Now if Tata Group has to analyze the portfolio of companies, then there are some companies which give automatically profits, natural profits, perpetually, matlab they keep on giving profits without any additional efforts. There are some companies about which profitability is doubtful. So Boston Consultancy Group of the Boston University has divided companies into 4 categories for portfolio analysis. They have also used the term cash cow. The companies which gives perpetual profits are described in the Boston Consultancy Group analysis of portfolio cash cows. Then second is stars, which will give more. Third is question marks, and fourth is dogs. So these four terms are used there. So in the Yajurveda also, when they are using Imam Agneshtaka Dhenava Santeka, यहाँ धेनवा धेनु शब्द जो है प्रॉफिट बियरिंग कैपिटल की मेरी प्रॉफिट को 10 गुना 100 गुना 1000 गुना, इसी तरह से there are almost more than 200 to 300 words in Vedic scriptures which talk of profit. For example, many people would say कि
I think there has been some technical problem. I'll just check with sir and get back. Yeah.
Namrata, you could call Dr. Bhagavati and just check.
Yeah, I'll just do that.
Yes, Dr. Sharma has joined us. Dr. Sharma? And Dr. Sharma? Yes. Dr. Sharma, you will have to please unmute. Yes. Ji, sir.
Fine.
Sir,
Actually, I'm using my son's laptop and I forgot to switch on the plug. So actually, it got off. Now I have switched on. So,
सर एक रिक्वेस्ट है सर पार्टिसिपेंट से कि अगर हम हिंदी और इंग्लिश दोनों में कर सके.
ठीक है.
हमारे कुछ पार्टिसिपेंट्स सदर्न पार्ट से हैं तो दे आर नॉट वेरी वेल वर्स्ड इन हिंदी.
Fine.
जी, प्रणाम सर.
So actually, in this shlok of Yajurveda, they have used this term like dhenu as a cash cow, whatever is used by the Boston Consultancy Group. Likewise, so for example, many people say that we did not have any idea of companies or partnerships or something like that. In Vedic scriptures, as well as in various Niti Shastras, as well as in the various Artha Shastras, they have used the term Sambhuya Samuthan. And in Sambhuya Samuthan, they have described, they mean that is when people join together to do the business that is in the form of company, cooperatives and partnerships. I'll not be able to go into all those details, how they are described. But say, for example, the rules of partnership are much elaborate than what they are today. And even today, say, for example, we do not have the provision of taking decision by majority. But under Sambhuya Samuthan, they also allow decision to be taken by majority. But in case if that PA proves to be a fiasco, then those who have taken that decision, they will have to compensate the remaining partners who have opposed that decision. So what do I want to convey is that in ancient times, we had very advanced level of business rules. Right now, I'll not be able to go through all those. But we had this perfect knowledge how to run business as joint stock company or as cooperative or as partnership under the Samhui Samuthan. And there are Samuthan and there are many such terms. Likewise, even when we talk of global governance today, I think our ancient thinkers had a very good deal of thought on global governance. In our various religious operations, towards the end, we use the Swasti part. Jagnena Jagnamaya Janta Devastani Dharmani. So the third stanza into that is Om Swasti Samrajyam Vairajyam Bhujyam, and it ends with Prathibhyaya Samudra Parintaya Ek Rad Iti. It means from the earth to ocean, this is one nation. There are states with different kinds of governance. For example, Om Swasti Samrajyam Vairajyam Bhujyam. Vairajya means that kingdom is called Vairajya and its king is called Virat. We have seen in Mahabharata also Raja Virat. His daughter was Uttara, and who was married to Abhimanyu, and we all know that Virat. In Nepal also we find Virat Nagar. In Southeast Asia also there are 3 to 4 Virat Nagars. In Sri Lanka also, up to whatever extent we had the influence of Indian culture, you will find Virat Nagar. So powerful feudal lords used to appoint king, like Kichak was there. तो जहां प्रबल सामंत राजा की नियुक्ति करते हैं, and the king's court or king's parliament or committee is also comprising of such powerful feudal lords, that is called Vairajya, and its king is called Virat, and that Virat category of king has continued for several centuries at several places. Then Vairajya, then Bhoj. Bhoj means its king is called Bhoj. Say Bhoj Nagari in MP near Bhopal, we had Raja Bhoj. There is Bhojpur in Nepal also. There are 3 Bhojpur in Southeast Asia also. So wherever intellectuals constituted the parliament or committee or court of the king, and king was appointed by the intellectuals, that king was called Bhoj. तो हमारे यहाँ राजा भोज की परंपरा अनेक स्थानों पर सैकड़ों वर्षों तक रही है. So we had this tradition. Samant Paryayi, Adhiraj, I'll not be able to explain all of them today. But in that single stanza, and all these are well explained in Taittiriya Upanishad and Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, that what are the traits of Bhojya, or what are the traits of Vairajya, or what are the traits of Adhirajya, or what are the traits of Samantaparyayi, or what are the traits of Parmeshti Rajya, or something like that. All the, it means this whole earth that is one nation up to sea, and there are several kingdoms having different systems of governance like Bhojya, Vairajya, Samantaparyayi, Adhirajya, etc. And we wish good or we convey good wishes for all. It means it was, and I think there was a tradition of global constitution or global penal code also. In Valmiki Ramayana, when Lord Ram kills Bali, Bali asks, why did you kill me? So he says that we are moving in the forest and we are the citizens of Bharat's kingdom. And this is the duty of every king, that self-righteousness in the conduct is maintained everywhere. You have forfeited wife of your younger brother Sugriv, and therefore you have to be penalized. And since now Ayodhya was a separate state, Kishkinda was a separate state, but as a citizen of a law-abiding kingdom, you have the duty to enforce righteousness everywhere. There are many such examples, but there are many such. Even in Rigveda, there are 10 to 12 shlokas which talk of electing king and recalling the king. And even our various shastras say a king cannot make any law. He has to rule only on the basis of smritis, sutra granthas, etc. Janpads can make the rules because they are responsive to the local people. So I'll not be going into those details of the political governance, but I'll say that we had very advanced system. Even when we talk of science and technology, as you have said, there are some people from South also, probably some people maybe from Tamil Nadu also. In Tamil Nadu, at Kodumanal, a lot of archaeological excavations have been conducted. At Kodumanal, the archaeologists have traced an ancient township which was thriving from 500 BC, and it survived up to 500 AD. And there they have found out steel manufacturing units. And for making steel, they have found vitrified crucibles. Now today we talk that vitrification process. We see earlier 30-40 years back we used to say Euro vitrified tiles. All these tiles which are which glitter like glass. So this vitrification process, we normally say that it was started 100 years back in Europe. But actually, when we have found 2,500 years old vitrified crucibles used to make steel at Kodumanal in Tamil Nadu, it means we knew the vitrification process at that time. There were textile mills also. There were units which used to process gems. And there the archaeologists have found the coins of Thailand. There the archaeologists had found the coins of Rome. Rome means Italy, that is Western Europe. So right from Southeast Asia, Thailand, up to Rome, they had maritime trade, and such industries have been found out. So whenever we teach, for example, actually we have to properly interpret all our scriptures. Often we say, manufacturing of ice has started from 1858. But actually in Valmiki Ramayana, when Hanumanji do come and inform Lord Ram that, inform Bharatji, when the Hanumanji do come and he informs Bharatji that now Lord Ram's chariot is to come, Viman is likely to come. He is coming within half an hour, less than half an hour, एक घटी में वो आ रहे हैं. He inform, हनुमान जी ने भरत जी को बताया कि भगवान राम आने वाले. Immediately Bharat ji instructs his ministers several things. I will not go into those details. One thing he mentions, you spray ice cooled water on the roads. वहां शब्द हैं हिम शीतेन वारिणः. Him stands for ice. शीतेन यानी cooled from ice. Him शीतेन. Varinah means pani. Means him शीतेन varinah means water that is cooled by ice be sprayed on the roads. Even in today's civilizations, in 200 countries, anywhere we do not have this tradition of spraying ice cool water. We just spray whenever we have to welcome somebody. We just take water from well or pond or whatever river or wherever it is available. We bring it by tankers and we spray on the roads. But if Valmiki Ramayana mentions of Himashiten Varinah, means water that is cooled from ice be sprayed on the roads, it means we knew ice manufacturing at that time, because at an interval of 20 to 25 minutes, people in Ayodhya have sprayed that ice cooled water. Even sometimes when we talk of our scriptures, many people may not agree with me. But when we say that Lord Ram was born in Treta Yuga, and today at present we are having Kali Yuga. And 5,122 years of Kali Yuga have lapsed. Before that we had Dwapar. According to our Puranic calculations, Dwapar comprises 8,64,000 years, 8,64,000 वर्ष का द्वापर है. It means Treta was 8,69,000 ago, and Treta expansion was 12,96,000. So the period of Treta Yuga comes between 8,69,000 years to 21,25,000 years in between. So people ask me, how can it be possible? Actually, there are many such evidences, but well, I'll go to just one archaeological evidence. In Valmiki Ramayana, you will find mention of 4 tusked elephants. 4 दांत वाले हाथियों का 2 जगह पे वर्णन आता है. 4 tusked mammoths or elephants are described in Valmiki Ramayana at 2 places. And modern archaeologists say that 4 tusked mammoths have become extinct. Just a minute. हाँ सोनी, हाँ प्रणाम, हाँ घर पे ही आ जाइए. So 4 tusked mammoths become extinct 1 million years ago. Modern archaeologists say that 4 tusked mammoths or elephants have become extinct from on this earth 1 million years ago. They used to be there since 40 million years. 4 करोड़ साल से 10 लाख साल के बीच में वो होते हैं. 10 लाख साल पहले ये पूरी तरह से विलुप्त हो गए. Now, if any organism or creature which used to exist only 1 million years ago, if that has been described in a scripture, it means that a scripture must be describing the events of that era. Now, some people challenge me. No, he is a poet. Just he has mentioned out of his imagination. But then I ask them that Mahabharata was authored only 5,000 years ago and much later than Valmiki Ramayana. But Vedvyasji has not mentioned any 4 tusked mammoths while he has described armies of several kings having several thousand elephants. But he did not mention that so and so king had a 4 tusked mammoths. He did not, because that 4 tusked mammoths did not exist in that era. So, to my mind, we have to keep all these things in our mind when we are discussing our ancient scriptures or ancient knowledge system. Ancient knowledge system. So I think this is the time when we have to do the research, and we have to find out the present day knowledge. We have to relate it. We have to relate it with the present day knowledge. For example, if we come to another dimension, say for example, even today we do a lot of misinterpretation. I'll just be, when I was talking of words, actually the Shudras or scheduled castes were the micro, small and medium and large scale manufacturers of this country, and we have misinterpreted the term Shudra. Shudra term has not evolved out of Kshudra. Shudra term has been evolved. If you will go through the Atharvaved talks of lot of economic activities. It says, Shamasya Svedena Utpadanrat Eva Shudraha, which makes valuable things out of the sweat of his or her labor is Shudra. अपने श्रम के स्वेद से मूल्यवान वस्तुओं को बनाने वाला शूद्र है. Shamasya Svedena Utpadanrat Eva Shudraha. And that is why Kamandak Nitisar is a book of economics authored after Chanakya, a few years, I think 1 century or 2 centuries after Chanakya. It says when a king makes new township, he should invite more Shudras and more Vaishyas, because Shudras make various valuable things and Vaishyas do their trade and pay tax to the king. Even in Mahabharata, Shudras were most affluent community, and that is why they were given the responsibility of dealing with the state guests. In Mahabharata, there are many such shlokas. One is, I'll just quote one. Sa Shudraha Sanshit Tapa Jitendriha सुश्रुषुर तिथिम, अतिथियों की शुश्रूषा, सुश्रुषुर तिथिम तपह संचिनुते महत. That Shudra is most मतलब जो है laudable, who most laudable, who entertains the state guests very aptly. Even, say for example, when we come to Vastu Granthas, there are many Vastu, say in Vishwakarma Prakash, many Purans also. The measuring thread of 4 Varnas have been described in Vishwakarma Prakash and several other books. Brahmanasya Sutra Darbajam means the measuring thread of Brahman used to consist of Kusha, Darb. Monjantu ta Kshatriyasya, of Munj grass, it was of Kshatriya caste, fighters. Karpasam cha Bhavet Veshya, cotton's measuring thread was used in case of Veshyas. And Swarna Nirmitam Shudrasya Sutram, it means the measuring thread of Shudra used to comprise a golden thread. And therefore, I'll not be going to talk much about this, but just I want to say that in the Indian knowledge system, we have to rightly interpret the terms being used by our scripture composers, and we have to interpret that knowledge system in the terminology that used to be there. Now I am coming to professional education, because now I'll be running short of time. As I have mentioned earlier, that India had 34% share in world manufacturing from 0 AD up to 1500 AD. It has been described by Angus Maddison, the British economic historian. So how these riches, how rich we were at that time. Today we are having, I think, as I have said, 3% share in world manufacturing. China has, we are also 17.7% of global population. China has 18.4% share in world population. China has 28.4% share in world manufacturing. US has 17.5%. Japan, which has only 1.6% share in world population, has 10% share in world manufacturing. Germany also has 6% share in world manufacturing. So unless we improve the quality of education for our technical as well as professional streams. Today, when we see Chinese scholars are registering 15 lakh patents per annum, international patents. They are applying for 15 lakh patents every year out of the 33 lakh patents being applied worldwide. They have almost 43% share in world patent filings. We have less than, our scholars in country file less than 50,000 patents every year. So this reflects the kind of innovative. Our share in patent filings is somewhere around 1.5%, while China has 43% share in world patent filings. And when we come to industrial design registration, so in industrial design registration, we have less than 1% share. China has 23% share in industrial design registrations. And therefore, unless we elevate the quality and innovativeness in our professional and technical education, we are not going to overcome this. Today, we have to import almost 90% of the solar panels from China at a cost of 25,000 crores of rupees. We have to economically empower our enemy of first order by 25,000 crores of rupees, because we have not been making our solar panels. 90% of solar panels are being imported from China, and 7 lakh technocrats are getting job every day for making solar panels from for India. So actually, we are blessing them with the 25,000 crores of rupees and employment for 7 lakh people every day. And we are also facilitating technology development for China. Today, we have to import almost 50 crore lithium batteries. Likewise, so our professional education has to focus that wherever we are import dependent, we have to improve the quality of teaching, learning, research, and industrial engineering to the extent that we can manufacture all those inputs which we have to import today. For example, what is required in making solar panel? We have to ignite silica to 1000 degrees centigrade. So from silica, we can make silicon ingots. From those silicon ingots, we have to produce thin wafers through wafering. These thin wafers of silicon are used for making photovoltaic cell, and then we can make photovoltaic panels. So no rocket science is involved. But actually, our research scholars in professional and IITs and everywhere, they have to focus all their research, whether in the Faculty of Science, in the Faculty of Technology, or Engineering, or IITs, or NITs. Somewhere we have to focus in developing technologies where we are foreign dependent. That is the first requirement. Then these days we would be having a lot of replacement technologies. Now, when we talk of replacement technologies, even at Glasgow, we have committed to move towards electrical mobility. That is to have electric vehicles. Now, electric vehicles, if we would be moving towards electric vehicles, government has already announced its intent that after 2030, no fossil fuel based, petrol, diesel based vehicles would be allowed to be sold. There are several thousand companies which have been manufacturing engine parts. Actually, a petrol engine or diesel engine requires 2000 parts. And if all of these parts shall not be manufactured, if all these parts would not be manufactured, all these companies shall be closed down. And if electrical and petrol driven vehicles which require engines which can be made out of 2000 parts, will have to stop manufacturing all those parts, and it would be replaced by an electric drive. Electric drive has only 20 components, and still India has not developed technology to manufacture electric drive. We have to import components of electric drive either from China or Korea or US or Germany or elsewhere. So unless our professional and technical institutes, including IITs, NITs, they develop the technology to manufacture electric drives, we would again be foreign dependent. Here I will also like to talk of right choice of technology. For example, why should we at all go towards the battery driven vehicles? Why should not we go for hydrogen fuel cell technology? There are two kinds of electric vehicles. One is battery driven. At present, we are popularizing battery driven. We are blessing China again, because all lithium batteries have to be imported from there. Even many state government corporations have imported buses from China, lithium battery based buses, etc. If we move towards hydrogen fuel cell technology, then no storage battery is required. By combining hydrogen and oxygen, electricity is generated. Water is the only byproduct, and it is most clean technology, because once the life of a battery is over. So why should we go for battery driven vehicles? We should go for the hydrogen fuel cell technology, because after the life of battery is over, it would be a pollution menace. And secondly, to manufacture lithium batteries, we do not have the deposits of lithium or cobalt. China has procured more than 40% of the lithium and cobalt deposits in Latin America and Africa. We do not have any raw material security. then if we move towards hydrogen fuel cell technology, we will not be requiring lithium or cobalt or the lithium batteries, etc. And it is so we have also to talk of right choice of technology. Governments cannot take right decision. These are the professional and technical institutes which have to decide what is the right choice of technology for the country. That also we have to think of. Besides this, these days, a lot of work is being done in sunrise sectors and sunrise technologies. Again, we are very much behind the world in sunrise technologies. For example, in artificial intelligence, India is almost 20 years behind China or Germany or US or Korea, etc. We have not been doing. Even our All India Council of Technical Education could not realize the importance of artificial intelligence. So it has allowed universities and colleges to have BTech in artificial intelligence only from 2020. While lot of products are being rolled out in all these sections. For example, Illinois University, and there are several universities, more than 200 universities, which have been hectically working on developing crop yield prediction software-based algorithmic products based on artificial intelligence. When a farmer has sown his crop of say corn or tomato or potato, what was the soil test report, what nutrients he has added, how the temperature and humidity has changed over the weeks, and therefore what when his farmer's crop would ripe, and what would be the yield. Such algorithm based softwares are developed by several such companies. Likewise, Chinese universities have done very good work by using the X-ray films being produced in various X-ray clinics. They have subjected these clinics, they have subjected these X-ray films to big data analysis, and from big data analysis to machine learning. And now they have developed AI-based algorithmic product on the basis of which from a simple X-ray film of any person, they can predict who is likely to have lung cancer and when. For example, we have installed barbed wire fence at Bangladesh border, but infiltration has not been stopped. Smuggling of cows has also not stopped. Israel has used very good use of sunrise technologies of artificial intelligence, electronic sensors, photo recognition system, and robotics, mechatronics, etc. For example, they have developed the sensors and installed across the border. Those sensors can take cognizance of anybody crossing the border. Those sensors are linked to photo recognition systems of computer science, and they have loaded the photos of all the people who are expected to move around the border, their citizens, their security personnel, etc. So that the sensor takes the cognizance of any person crossing the border. The photo recognition system identifies aligned foreigners, and then it sends signal to the robot called Guardian. They called it as Guardian. That Guardian is a robot based on mechatronics, which can run at a velocity of 50 kilometers in the desert. So that naps that person. So right from agriculture to defense, medical diagnostics, therapeutics, even in linguistics, these days, artificial intelligence is being used to decipher various scripts, whether it is the Indus script. Even people are trying to work on find similes, say, Tamil Brahmi script, Indus Valley script, and some Latin American epigraphical scripts. So it is, even in case of music, performing arts, our AI is being used to compose songs, lyrics for music. Even for dance choreography, artificial intelligence is being used. But actually, we have not worked in last 20 years. So now we have to hectically work on all the verticals of artificial intelligence, whether it is the machine learning or it is blockchain or it is IoT or everywhere. So we have to think of this quantum computing, 5G, everywhere we have to do a lot. And therefore, our faculties of science, faculties of engineering, our NITs, our IITs have to develop these sunrise sector-based technologies and products indigenously. Otherwise, we will be strived of all our money in importing products from abroad. So we had a very rich tradition of knowledge heritage. We have led the world. Again today, we have to do that miracle, and we have to now. I was astonished. I was going through various entities which have been practically working on developing AI-based products. I found there are 700 entities across the world. Some are university departments, some are the companies, some are the individual professor-based teams, and there are certain other groups of people who have been hectically working. Out of these 700 entities, none of them is Indian entity, but 40% of the people working in those entities are Indians. So actually, we do not lack in wisdom, we do not lack in talent. We are only 17.7% of the global population, but we have 40% contribution in the entities which have been developing sunrise sector products and technologies. So without even we have to think out of box. For example, China thought that for every DVD player we have to pay a royalty of $4.5. So why should we not develop an alternative product? So all of us have been using DVD and DVD players. China developed EVD, enhanced versatile disc, and they developed EVD players. And their government has made the rules that now EVD players are equally popular, are having equal footing vis-a-vis DVD players. So we have to do that miracle. These days, I often talk of techno-nationalism. So we have to identify the sectors where homegrown technologies have to be developed, whether it is the operating system or these are the meetings, say we are working on Zoom or Google Meet or something like that, or even say China has developed its own search engine better than Google, that is Baidu. China has developed its own geographical positioning system better than this Google's geographical positioning system. So that is called Baidu. So we have to do a lot, whether it is in the field of software product development or in brick and mortar products. Everywhere we have to work on that. So I think probably this session is from 4 to 5:30, and already it's 5:11. So if the organizers have any provision of question answer session, I'll be open to that. And otherwise, if you expect, I will be resuming back to complete my part of the inning.
Sure, sir. It would be great if we could have participants ask you some questions. Is that okay?
Yes, you are welcome.
Sure. So maybe we could take some questions. I see Sagar ji and Ashutosh ji's hands up. So Sagar ji, go ahead, please.
Thank you so much, sir, for a wonderful session. And it is really a great to hear you in this session. Sir, in your discussion, you talk about one economic book after Chanakya. That is, what is that book title, sir? Kamantak
Niti Sar. K-A-M-A-N-D-A-K. Kamandak Niti Sar.
Sir, one more. Please elaborate that Hardaya once again.
Harte dadate rayte yamam hriday shabdah.
Yeah.
Harte, ha, h, hriday ka ha means harte. Da means dadate, Rayate means circulates, and Yamam means regulates the heartbeats.
Beats.
Harte dadate, Rayate Yamam Hriday Shabda.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you so much, sir.
Ji.
Ashutosh ji, would you like to go ahead?
Thank you, sir, for such a wonderful season. What I observed, you have informed us according to the Nigantu, Sanskrit Nigantu, the meaning of Sanskrit words. So what I observed, that one Sanskrit word can be taken in different way. There are different meanings for one word. So especially there are some prayers or rituals or other practices. If we interpret that particular sukta or prayer in different way, it would be producing a technical meaning. For example, I or is, it can be taken as a profit, as well as it can be taken as the metal or iron.
Yes.
Trembak can be taken, it is the word similar to copper. But sometimes, so is there any possibility that the same slokas or same suktas has 2 or 3 different meanings?
I'll just mention one thing. For example, in the share market, we use the term bull and bear. Now, bull
Yes.
means bullock.
Yes.
Now, bull always sees upwards. So all those stock market traders who take the market towards the high side, they are called bulls.
Yes.
And the other, the bears, bear always sees downward, reach bhalu jo hota hai. So what has happened in modern days also, we have been using such similes for various terms. Likewise, in ancient era also, as I have mentioned, dhenu means cow, dhenu means profit bearing capital. Like Bhratva Brahma means when profit is combined with that. So actually everywhere you will have to interpret the word according to its usage. Particularly in Vedic scriptures, Gangeshwarananji, etc., has interpreted every mantra of each Ved in 5 different ways.
Oh.
Adhibhautik, Adhidevik. So as a deity, how does it mean? Say, for example, I'll just say, when I have begun my talk with the dark energy, that in the intergalactic spaces, dark energy is embedded, which is invisible. And then I have also talked of dark matter. Dark matter binds all the galaxies. So intergalactic space, we have dark matter, and which binds all the planets, including the solar system, to its place so that they do not leave their place. Now, Rigved says, Indra is one who has stabilized the cosmos and holds the cosmos together. इंद्र वह है जिसने सृष्टि के आदि में कांपती हुई पृथ्वी और ग्रहों को, ध्रुवलोक के ग्रहों को स्थिर किया, तो कांपती हुई पृथ्वी को स्थिर किया और ध्रुवलोक को व्यवस्थित किया. It means probably the Indra term may be relating to the dark matter also. So actually what has happened in the 1200 years of dark era, we have lost lot of wisdom. And therefore we have to say, for example, when Grahan, eclipses, solar and lunar eclipses, we say that Rahu was divided into 2, Rahu and Ketu. Now, what happens about 500 billion years ago, 5 billion years ago, the solar system was created. At that time, orbit of sun and orbit of moon were on the same plane, and they did not intersect each other. And the orbit of this earth, in which earth revolves around the sun, which is called ecliptic, Kranti Vrata. So at that time, so long as both were on the same plane, maybe for 1 billion or 2 billion years, there used to be no Rahu and Ketu, and there used to be no such. Now, maybe due to all the astrophysicists talk that maybe somewhere in last 3 billion years, एक ऊर्जा के महापात के फलस्वरूप the orbit of the moon has tilted by 6 degrees, and therefore the orbit of moon intersects the orbit of the earth at two places, and those two nodes are called Rahu and Ketu. Had this deflection in orbit of moon would not have taken place, then on every Amavasya there had to be a solar eclipse, and on every Purnima there had to be a lunar eclipse. But with this change of the ecliptic plane, this has been created. Now, with this change in the ecliptic plane, what has happened? When the moon moves around all the 27 constellations, 27 nakshatra pe ghumta hai, the Rohini constellation is about 6 degrees, also having tilted plate, and thereby it covers that nakshatra. और इसीलिए हम पुराणों में कहते हैं कि रोहिणी नक्षत्र के ऊपर चंद्रमा का विशेष अनुग्रह है. This is called, in astronomical language, it is called occultation, full occultation. So this full occultation has begun to take place after this fall of energy and change in the ecliptic plane of the moon, and it has, so actually all these things have to be interpreted in a very imaginative manner. That is what I would like to convey.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. I am getting something cleared about this aspect. Thank you.
Dr. Rajat, would you like to go ahead?
Yes, thank you, sir, for this very nice talk. I have just one or two things to point out here. Actually, regarding whether it is Hridayam or whether it is zinc or dark matter or dark energy, we are pointing out things post facto.
Yes.
After things are discovered in science. Can we, with all our analytical abilities, can we predict something which can be verified later on, which science has not yet approached? The reason why we have become laughing stock is because we are post facto justifying ourselves that this was there. Now, can we not have a team of experts who in every field would bring out by their interpretations new things which have not yet been discovered? Whether it is about dark matter, dark energy, or function of the heart, or whatever, can we not do that? That is the crying need of the hour. That is what I think.
There are two things. One need is to invest time, energy, and money in rightly interpreting the scriptures. Actually, in the last 75 years, we have killed Sanskrit. Today, most of the vernacular universities have been teaching Sanskrit in Hindi. That is, they are taking examination in Hindi. So normally those who do BA and MA, they do not study all these Nigantus and Niruktas, etc. Our Sanskrit universities and Sanskrit colleges based on Oriental system, which used to award the degree of Shastri and Acharya in place of BA and MA. There they used to have Sanskrit medium. But today, those who have done or who could do Acharya and Shastri, they do not have any career. Nobody is going to hire them. Now, all the universities and colleges are empty. Say, for example, in Rajasthan, there were 41 separate verticals for Acharya Upadhi. Yajurved, Madhyandin Shakha, Yajurved, Kanva Shakha, they're used to. Now today, I think after 10 or 20 years, we would not be having any scholars who would be able to interpret these words, to interpret the Sanskrit grammar. For example, in Rajasthan, we had 2 Acharya Upadhi for Sanskrit Vyakaran. Navya Vyakaran, Prachya Vyakaran. Today, nobody does Acharya in Vyakaran. So problem is that in 1200 years, we have faced the aggression of Arabs, Turks, then this Sultanate Kal of Khilji and all these things, and they have all destroyed all of. Several of the Aurangzeb has categorically issued order that all schools, that is Gurukul or Vidyalaya, should be demolished. And therefore, what has happened in last 600-700 years, people use the allegorical term. कि रोहिणी पे चंद्रमा ज्यादा स्नेह करता है, ये all these allegorical teachings have been developed only thereafter. So one thing is, all our scriptures are destroyed. There are 1.25 crore scriptures lying in various archives yet to be read. And their scriptures are also such that people who can read their scriptures are also above my age. So problem is to read all those scriptures which are there, 1.25 crore scriptures which are lying in archives, read them, interpret them with right connotation. For example, when I was mentioning Hriday ke Agrabhag mein Vidyut Ashani, Sayanacharya did not have any idea that there can be electricity. So he has said, Hriday ke Agrabhag se main Ashani Dev ko namaskar karta hu. Mahidhar in 16th century mentioned, Hriday ke Agrabhag mein main Ashani Dev ko dharan karta hu. Now, Ashani, bearing Ashani, now only when now scientists have revealed that electrical impulses have. So another problem is that in last 1200 years, we have lost that wisdom. But still, if government, I think first thing is if we can start an all India Sanskrit service, in which we should hire only Sanskrit Acharya and Shastri degree holders. And states should also have all India, all Rajasthan, yeah, all Madhya Pradesh Sanskrit services. And we have to offer careers so that people would start reading these disciplines in the Oriental pattern. Otherwise, say for example, today we have only 6 Acharya degree instead of 41 in Rajasthan. And in those 6 degree, for these 6 degree Yajurveda, etc., there are no professors, associate professors, assistant professors, neither there are students nor there are student faculties. So actually, all out efforts are required so that we can do contemporary researches. For example, in Ayurveda, it is said Vata Pitta Kapha. Now, Russians have found out about intracellular hyperacidity, intracellular hypermucilaginous stage, intracellular hypergaseous density. So it means I think we can interpret the Vata Pitta Kapha from that. So at least doesn't matter, even if we do not take a lead, at least if we can properly interpret all these things, then also we can do a lot. Otherwise, we have actually lost the trail in last 1200 years.
Thank you. We have questions from Dr. Rajiv, Pankaj ji, and Dr. Swati ji. So, and I think we have very.
I'll be able to take only one question because from 5:30 I have another meeting.
Okay.
And that too, I think, is a quite fascinating festival.
Right.
In a year, whenever the 13th day, traditional 13th day, that is Trayodasi, falls on Wednesday and bright moon, it is called Tanna Trayodasi. And on that day, multi-grain dishes of 13 food grains and 13 vegetables is. So there is a biodiversity celebration at 9 places in Udaipur. So I'll have to join there. So I'll be leaving by 5:30.
Yes, definitely. So maybe Rajiv ji, you could go ahead.
Yeah, so thank you, Professor Bhagwati. What I would like to ask that why not there are research opportunities for young professors who can work with a transdisciplinary approach from the very beginning of their career, if we want to promote that kind of a scenario. In terms of maybe they are trained in the sciences in a different approach. Obviously, everyone is trained in the modern sciences, but they have the ability to even learn the Sanskrit, and they would have learned at the basic level. So there are those kind of opportunities.
Now it's open space. Any professor of electronics or any professor of physics or any professor of cosmology or any professor of chemistry can supervise a doctoral degree based on these Indian scriptures, wisdom found in the Indian scriptures, our ancient civilizational antiquities. So I think people should take initiative in starting, and particularly in new national education policy, they have talked of multiple courseworks. So I think if a research scholar who has done one coursework, and if he wants to do interdisciplinary study by interpreting some of the scriptures, he can go for another. But then universities have to invest money. Problem is Indian universities are having very poor headcount. There are universities which have all the guest faculty in a department, or there is one man department, there are two men. Unless we have proper departments, what do I feel? At least one department should have 4 to 6 persons with proper cadre ratio. Then only it can happen. If we find a large number of universities, the regular faculty is less than the number of departments. I'll not name the universities, but I know universities which have 22 departments and 16 regular faculties. So problem is that unless we have regular faculty, we have just contractualized and casualized the hirings in universities. 70 to 80% of the people are either guest faculty or visiting faculty. So unless we have stable structure in the university departments with proper cadre ratio, then only we can think of that. Don't take it otherwise. I am not going to hurt anybody's feelings if who is from any such university. It is a general phenomenon I have observed. And at this stage of my age, I think I should be honest in pointing out the lacuna.
Thank you, sir. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much, Bhagwati ji. It was a really, really valuable session. Thank you so much for joining us. I'll just request Sri Hari to do a Shanti mantra and we can end the session.
Sure, sure.
Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnad Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamataya Purnameva Vasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so
Thanks a
much.
lot. Thanks a lot.
Just request participants to just stay for a minute. Just a couple of logistical announcements. So firstly, hope you've enjoyed today's day too. We have a packed session from tomorrow also, but tomorrow's sessions will start at 9 a.m. Only today and yesterday they were starting at 8, but as you know, from tomorrow, all of them will start at 9 a.m. And the second thing is there is a feedback and summary form. If you could all just fill it, I will just send it out to all of you on your emails. If you could fill it by 6 o'clock tomorrow, 6 a.m. tomorrow, if you could fill it and send it, it will be very good. And yes, hope you all are enjoying, and hope you are. Hope we can do it. We can make it better from your feedback. Thank you. Thank you so much, everyone. See you tomorrow.